Module 10, Attracting Funding. In this module, you will have an insight about the different alternatives that you have for searching and obtaining financial resources. In the first place, we are going to see some of the traditional funds by banks. Then, we are going to talk about the new paths to obtain alternative financial support. At the end, we will explore this information in a case method that will allow us to develop our own campaign for funds. Importance of capital in entrepreneurship. According to the economist Joseph Alois Schumpeter, entrepreneurs are not necessarily motivated by profit, but consider it a standard to measure achievements or success. To be able to start a business, it is essential to establish a plan, the sales techniques, the negotiation techniques, the search for financing, administration, and human capital. Money is the soul of a business and finances are the nerve center. Finance is the process of creating, moving, and using money, allowing the flow of the same in the company. The finances are fundamental to create or to promote a business, to gain assets, to develop products, to execute service or market and publicity, and more. Every entrepreneur needs funds for business growth, to increase their competitiveness in the market, and to maintain their operating business and their customer base. In the following slides, we are going to talk about the different sources for financial support. The three main sources of financing for a company are income from commercial operations, contributions from investors, and loans from individuals, financial institutions, and other types. In this way, it is important to evaluate these sources of financing. Evaluate them in short term, such as payroll, or long term, such as product purchases. Select the most convenient financing for our business is a way to get the success and growth of our company. These form the backbone of a company. Conversely, inefficient management of finances and the grown source of financing could lead to a shortage of liquidity in the company. The most important element in starting a business is funding. Even the most basic home business incurs a multitude of startup costs, including registering a business name, obtaining a business telephone line, and printing business cards. Thus, the mobilization of resources should take priority when starting any initiative. The business initiator should have in-depth knowledge about the community around it and related to it, good knowledge and understanding of the labor market as a whole and in different levels, skills to maintain and update a list of professions, good knowledge of local employment opportunities, good communication and presentation skills, good reputation in its community. Every entrepreneur needs funds for business growth, to increase their competitiveness in the market, and to maintain their operating business and their customer base. In the following slides, we are going to talk about the different sources of financial support. The three main sources of financing company are income from commercial operations, contributions from investors, and loans from individuals, financial institutions, and other types. In this way, it is important to evaluate these sources of financing. Evaluate them in short term such as payroll or long term such as product purchases. Select the most convenient financing for our business as a way to get the success and growth of our company. These form the backbone of a company. Conversely, inefficient management of finances and the grown source of financing could lead to a shortage of liquidity in the company. Microfinance institutions. Microfinance institutions fill a needed gap within the financial services industry by offering small loans or microloans to people unable to access to conventional loan services. Microfinance institutions vary in size and function, with some organizations focusing entirely on microfinancing. The most obvious group of finance providers, both in developed and developing countries, is represented by the well-known traditional banks. However, these institutions never, or hardly ever, provide financial services to beginners that lack a strong credit history. The other source of finance is represented by microfinance institutions which could be classified into three main categories depending on the regulatory thresholds of their organizational structures. Informal institutions, purportedly, they do not have the status of institutions. They are providers of microfinance services on a voluntary basis and not subject to any kind of control or regulation. For example, self-help groups, credit associations, families, individual money lenders. Semi-formal institutions are usually registered entities subject to all relevant general laws. They can be defined as microfinance financial intermediaries, MFFIs. Within this category, it is possible to include different types of institutions with different structural and organizational complexity: financial NGOs, financial cooperatives, credit unions, postal saving banks. Formal institutions can be further classified into three main categories: microfinance banks, MFBs, microfinance-oriented banks, MFOBs, and microfinance-sensitive banks, MFSBs. They can all offer credit, and they are all deposit-taking institutions. For these reasons, they are all under banking regulations. Within MFBs, it is possible to list a limited number of pure microfinance banks, PMFBs, cooperative banks, and development banks. Within any society, financial services provide a means for people and businesses to obtain credit and manage available assets on a continuous basis. They are important because they give access to financial services that enables existing businesses to grow and provides the starting capital for startup businesses. Venture Capital Investment Trust. Venture capital funds are investment funds that manage the money of investors who seek private equity stakes in startup and small to medium-sized enterprises with strong growth potential. These investments are generally characterized as high-risk, high-return opportunities. It is very convenient for young startups. They are less complicated in the perspective of entrepreneurs and other small companies when raising funds. Nevertheless, attention must be made to the procedures that entrepreneurs need to do before and during the agreement. So, they will demand a proper business plan and they will evaluate the project in terms of expertise and innovation. After an investment is made, the fund charges a management fee. They usually are around 2%, and some funds may not charge a fee. It is important to mention that fees for large funds may only be charged on invested capital or decline after a certain number of years. On the other hand, the expected return varies based on industry and risk profile. Venture capital funds typically aim for a gross international rate of return around 30%. However, these venture capital investments not only address young startups, they also address seed capital, early stage capital, or expansion stage financing depending on the maturity of the business. Regardless your case, if you are granted with their funds, the operation is almost in the same way. Raise money by investors. Seek for business models. Review of business plans. Select high growth potential projects. Fund charges a management fee. They have a seat in the board. As it's a consortium of individual investors, the first venture capital must raise money, so this means that they will look for potential investors. Then, some of them will commit money to that fund and individual investment amounts are finalized. After this, venture capital funds seek for business models that have the potential of generating positive returns for its investors. These funds review thousands of business plans in search of potential high-growth companies, so you really need to work on your business plan to make it attractive and stand out from the others. The fund managers make investment decisions based on the prospectus and the expectations of the fund's investors. Crowdfunding is a finance technique operating by platforms on internet to match investors and borrowers for projects of common interest. It is used mainly to finance specific projects, ideas, as opposed to firms, and its apparent simplicity draws attention. Crowdfunding allows investors to finance projects of interest that do not necessarily imply monetary return. On the other hand, it enables entrepreneurs to find non-bank finance opportunities. One of the main drivers of the crowdfunding is an emotional engagement with the idea that might be related to local needs, private preferences, or brand values that are attached to the project. This can be understood as this type of fund was first created to help philanthropic activities. In this online platform, potential entrepreneurs upload information regarding their project activities and objectives, in some cases in the form of a business plan, and requesting funding under specific terms and conditions. One remarkable aspect is that entrepreneur doesn't need an intermediary, for example, a banking institution, to seek funding and can source directly the savings of a large audience. For lenders, they can contribute in two ways. On one hand, they give small donation without financial consideration, sometimes in exchange for a non-financial but tangible compensation. For example, a free ticket to a show, a pre-order of a product. On the other hand, by financial contribution, and here they expect some financial return. It comprises lending-based crowdfunding and equity-based crowdfunding, for example, crowd investing. In this sense, there is an obligation for the borrower to repay the money to investor, often with a fixed interest rate. How does crowdfunding work? Write your business plan. Choose the crowdfunding platform. Pre-screening of viability of the idea. Budget proposal with timeline. Social networks to attract lenders and investors. It connects investors and borrowers through an online platform which can be national or international. Sometimes the platform conducts a pre-screening of viability of the idea. So you must prepare your business plan and your brand love message, and once the proposal is expected, the borrower prepares a budget proposal with the required amount needed to accomplish the project and a timeline. The project owners use social networks to attract lenders and investors, and the platform itself might also publicize the project. If the project is funded, then borrowers use the platform to keep lenders and investors updated. Remember, the main benefit of crowdfunding is providing finance to innovative projects. New or existing firms also the lower interest rates charged by crowdfunding platforms compared to traditional finance. A business angel is a person, not a company, who brings their money, experience, and contracts to new companies created by entrepreneurs in order to obtain a shareholding and a future profit. By definition, business angels are not mere speculators who seek the return of capital but want to really get involved in a project to which they can contribute something. In the same way, the investment they make is temporary, so in a period of between 3 and 7 years, they withdraw their investments, giving steps to new investors. There are no defined profiles for this type of investors, but we can catalog them in several groups. Entrepreneurs or managers of experienced companies that want to give their knowledge to young entrepreneurs. Savers, or people who have obtained considerable amounts of money in other businesses and who want to invest their money. According to the BBVA Bank, these are some of the characteristics of business angels. Participate in companies in the development or expansion phase. They get involved in the business trying to provide the maximum possible value. Invest in sectors they know. Their participation usually ranges between 25,000 and 250,000 euros, although there is no common denominator stipulated in this regard. They usually maintain anonymity before third parties. With the contribution of a business angels, the new company that is starting up gets liquidity and financing, strength, contracts, confidence for the rest of the market, credibility and publicity because these business angels are known in the sector. Incentives for entrepreneurs. Small business grants, government grants, and subsidies. This bucket often gets overlooked, but it should be an important focus. Government agencies provide financing such as grants and subsidies that may be available for your business. Local government websites provide a comprehensive listing of various government programs in different levels. You should have in mind that getting grants can be tough, since there may be strong competition and criteria for awards often stringent. Generally, most grants require you to match the funds you are being given, and these amounts vary greatly depending on the grantor. For example, a research grant may provide you only with 40% of the total cost. Generally, you will need to provide a detailed project description, an explanation of the benefits of your project, a detailed work plan with full cost, details of relevant experience and background on key managers, completed application forms when appropriate. It is important to check your area on the country and municipal level because most communities have some sort of local programs to help minority entrepreneurs get extra help to build businesses. Most reviewers will assess your proposal based on the following criteria: significance, approach, innovation, assessment of expertise, need for the grant. Some of the problem areas where candidates fail to get grants include: the research and work is not relevant, ineligible geographic location, applicants fail to communicate the relevance of their ideas, the proposal doesn't provide a strong rationale, the research plan is unfocused, there is an unrealistic amount of work, funds are not matched, loans or lines of credit. If your company needs only a temporary or small infusion of cash, try for a small business administration loan offered at a lower interest rate because it is guaranteed by the government, or a bank line of credit. Other subsidies. Now, it is time to talk about the educational resource. Perhaps the greatest thing an entrepreneur can do when establishing a new business is to gain as much education as possible. By understanding her competition and gaining an in-depth knowledge of his or her industry, he or she will be better prepared to make smarter decisions regarding the direction of his or her firm. Educational resources can be found through professional trade associations that are geared toward her industry, her local chamber of commerce, as well as the Small Business Administration. And don't forget, get your knowledge for free. A local government may offer service designed to educate entrepreneurs in everything from business plan writing, branding and marketing, to labor law and accounting. The classes are free and time commitments vary by topic, so it is easy to do at least get an introduction to a subject you need to know more about. Other is the human resources. The success of an organization is heavily relying on the talent and strength of its employees. The hiring of experienced professionals with track records of excellence within their area of expertise ensures that the missions and goals of the company will be carried out efficiently and with competence. Strong team members can be recruited using a variety of methods. An alternative is to find employees through referrals from individuals whose judgment is trusted. One way in which you can do that is by having internship programs with universities, technical education institutions, or even through government programs in different levels. UE, national, regional, and local. Finally, whether a small home business or a retail operation with multiple locations, every organization must have appropriate physical resources to survive. This includes a proper workspace, working telephone line, adequate information systems, and effective marketing materials. This aspect of business planning can be one of the costliest. As such, it is important for an entrepreneur to realistically assess his needs before making any purchases. In some places, local governments offer spots for startup new beginners that need a space to develop their activities. Finally, we are going to address the opportunities that exist within the EU level. The European Commission supports access to funding for businesses through local financial institutions in EU countries and partners countries. These institutions determine the exact financing conditions, the amount, duration, interest rates, and fees. The following are some of the EU programs that support small enterprises. European Fund for Strategic Investments has a dedicated SME window offering up to a total of €5.5 billion of either funding resources or guarantee capacity to support a number of products to be implemented through the European Investment Fund (EIF). Program for Competitiveness of Enterprises and Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises aims to make it easier for small enterprises to access finance in all phases of their life cycle: creation, expansion, or business transfer. European Union Finance for Innovators consists of a series of integrated and complementary financing tools and advisory services covering the entire value chain of research and innovation in order to support investments from the smallest to the largest enterprise. European Union Programme for Employment and Social Innovation. The target beneficiaries are vulnerable groups, micro-enterprises and social enterprises. It promotes a high level of quality and sustainable employment, guaranteeing adequate and decent social protection. Cultural and Creative Sector Guarantee Facility. The program offers loans and other financial products to creative enterprises through intermediaries such as banks. Now, since we have learned about different sources to get funds, we are going to study one case in order to help you understand the concepts that we have previously explained. Please go to your handbook and at the end of the module you will find the description and instructions.